Dr. Abhay Jere, who is Chief Innovation Officer, MHRD Innovation Cell, and Dr. Mohit Beer, Innovation Director, Innovation Cell, and myself. So without taking much time, I would request Dr. Abhay Jere, Chief Innovation Officer, to address the faculty.
So thank you, Pooja. Pooja, so I should share the PowerPoint presentation, or you're going to share it? I'm fine with either.
Let me share, sir. Let me share. I'll share the presentation. I'm facing some issues for sharing the content.
Let me share. Let me share from my side. No, it's not allowing me also to share the content. Why it's not allowing me to share the content? Mohit, can you share the content from your side? It is not allowing me to share the content.
No way. I believe there is an update happening, and I'm just figuring out, the art can immediately do it. They have to get the right Pooja. Just allow me a minute.
इसको बोलना थोड़ा सा होस्ट बनाने के लिए पूजा को. हाँ. Once Pooja becomes host, then she can share the content.
Yes. It is there.
Yes.
Can you share the screen now?
Yes, I can see the screen.
Okay.
Okay. So thanks, Dr. Pooja. Very warm welcome to all the faculty members who have joined this call. I think we have more than 203 faculty members today. This is the second session, the follow-up session of the earlier session, which was done. Pooja, you can go on mute if required. This is the second session in this series of implementing national innovation and startup policy for faculty and students. So usually when we talk about policy or any new item or new agenda, so the questions which are asked is usually why, what, how, and most importantly, we are adding so what. Okay. So I think the why part of it, why we are going to do this, is covered very, very elaborately by Deepan in his earlier session. The reason where we are very keen on ensuring what, when, and how part of this is because we want, in a very, very simple terms, want professors, our faculty to be rich now. We want them to be entrepreneur. While they are doing academics, they are creating a generation, they are molding the generation. We also want them to build businesses. And if we want to, what we can say, ensure, or if we want to achieve this Sangam of Lakshmi and Saraswati, then we need to ensure that there are right policy frameworks which will help us achieve this goal. Last time I was talking to you, and I remember quoting a couple of incidences. I will just go ahead and recollect those incidences for others who might not have heard them. The trigger for this policy framework was complaint or suggestion from large number of faculty members who said that if we are doing innovation and entrepreneurship in our campuses, our efforts are not formally getting recognized by the system. So that's a very, very important complaint, because if people have to grow in their career, we need to ensure that all these factors, all these aspects need to be counted. So that is one aspect. Second aspect was that, sir, there is no good clarity on revenue sharing. So when we started looking at revenue sharing by institutions, what we realized was that some institutes asking for 40% revenue sharing, some institutes asking for 50% revenue sharing, some institute asking up to 60% revenue sharing. 60%. So अगर faculty 100 रुपया कमाता है, if the faculty is earning 100 rupees, if 60 rupees are going to be taken away by the institute, certainly because you are on 7th pay commission, majority of you, 30%, 25-30% अगर income tax निकाल लेगा, but then what is left in your hand? So we need to harmonize some of these aspects. So we felt that we need to have a policy where we put some cap on revenue sharing. Because unless and until the money is directly there in hands of professors, faculties, they will not be really getting motivated to get into all these aspects of innovation and entrepreneurship. Similarly, for students, what we realized when we spoke to large number of students was that because student is at the lowest end of the pyramid in an academic institution or an academic setup, he gets arm twisted many times by higher ups in the ecosystem. And sometimes it actually ends up reflecting very, very poorly on morale, or actually killing the morale of young students with great ideas. And that is in terms of 2 or 3 aspects. One, IP sharing. Second, whether students can take leaves or can take a semester off to focus, what should be the credits, then how can the student can come back, and so on and so forth. So I always quote this example. I was talking to a person in one of the prestigious IITs, and he told me that one student started an enterprise in his hostel. He was doing some e-commerce at that time, and he started making some money also. But when director came to know about that, director called that student and asked, where is institute's revenue? Where is the institute's share? So student said, sir, IP is mine. There is no revenue sharing with the institute. The director said, no, the IP belongs to the institute because you have used our facilities. So when student asked which facility I have used, he said, you have used hostel's internet, which is institute's facility. And because you have used hostel's internet, you have to give share in your IP. But this is not good. This is extremely demotivating. There could be many such examples, but this one example actually made me trigger or made me think that we need to protect people with good ideas. Sometimes there are young junior faculties who have great ideas. But then dean is there, director is there, who would like to want to ask pie from that cake. If there is legitimate contribution, yes, they should get it. But they should not just get it because they are sitting on that position. So we really need to have a very honest and fair framework. And that's the reason we got into this policy framework design and committee under Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala, who is one of the most renowned professors, who also pursues entrepreneurship in big way from IIT Madras. We requested him. We had people from UGC as a part of committee. We had representatives from AICTE as part of the committee. We had representation from MHRD. I was personally the convener of this committee. We had representation from industry in big way to ensure that all the points which are relevant for promoting innovation and entrepreneurship within educational institutes is taken care of. For us, when we are looking at $5 trillion economy, our Modi ji, Prime Minister or Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji always talks about $5 trillion economy. Undoubtedly, due to COVID crisis, there could be small contraction in it, but it's a short-term contraction. We are not deviating from our aim of $5 trillion economy. And if we are looking at this $5 trillion economy, then our HEIs, our higher educational institutes, need to emerge as islands of innovations. And we require thousands of islands of innovations. Because when we are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, for me, the definition is not just make in India and make for India. But for me, the definition is make in India, but for the world. In one other forum, I was talking about nationalism and patriotism and so on and so forth. But for me, IP creation is the biggest form of nationalism. And currently we have 40,000 institutions in this country, 1,000+ universities which are directly or indirectly governing many of these colleges or majority of these colleges. We need to have right policy frameworks in place so that all the youngsters which are in our higher education system should have the confidence that if I have a good idea, I will be able to pursue it, and my institution, my university is going to support me in a very fair fashion and will walk an extra mile for me in ensuring the success of my idea and creating wealth for this country. We have a very big agenda, and you are part of our team. So when we are requesting you to go ahead, create the policy framework for your institution, discuss this policy framework within your institution, we are considering you as agent of change for us. What you are going to create is going to have a very, very long-lasting impact and may actually change the fortune of large number of students and faculty. So that's the reason we are very, very keen. So Deepan, Pooja, Mohit, myself, Chairman AICTE, Secretary MHRD, we are all extremely keen on ensuring that this policy frameworks move forward and institutes accept them in real letter and spirit. Yes, some minor modifications we want them to have, because that's the reason it's a framework. It's not a diktat. It's a framework. So when we talk about this why, then we have to come to what? What are the methods? How you should go about it. And as I said, so what? What is the impact? How to measure the impact which you will create? Because many times we measure output, but we don't care about outcome. Here, we are caring about outcome a lot. And for us, the outcome is a vibrant innovation ecosystem in all our HEIs. Moving to the next slide, Pooja. So, after last session, we had requested two things to the representatives of the institution. One, you need to go up to your higher ups to constitute an implementation committee. So we talked about who could be part of this implementation committee. Innovators, faculties, alumni, entrepreneurs within your vicinity. But we want people in this committee who knows what entrepreneurship means, who have some entrepreneurial experience, who could be called innovators, who could be called out-of-box thinkers. And you, for us, the NISP coordinators, should be the convener of this committee. Because you are our umbilical cord when we are connecting with these NISP committees. You are our connect. You are our liaison point. This is very, very important. And what you should do while you are forming this committee is that try to get some people from outside of your institute. Because sometimes many people within the institute get into yes sir mode. But you want people to discuss ideas. You want people to discuss change. And that is the reason we want you to ensure that you have really good representation from industry and entrepreneurs in your vicinity on this committee. Once this committee is formed, you really need to start creating awareness about this committee, about the long-term objectives. These brainstorming sessions needs to start. The reason is, if you don't do these brainstorming sessions, you will not get good inputs while you are drafting your own policy. Because we want this committee to do better than what we have done. And eventually give us inputs also. So that when we are working on next version of this policy, we can actually go and amend, or we can actually go and add some of the aspects to make it better. So we want each institute to have multiple brainstorming sessions, to ensure that the policy framework which we have created is discussed very, very elaborately, and good points of those policies, some improvements could be suggested so that your policy becomes a better document than us. But, Pooja, next slide. But when we looked at the data, because we started survey, when we looked at the data, that what our coordinators have done, we realized that 80% of, or 85%, what is shown here, have identified the experts. But to be honest with you all, this is a very skewed data. The reason is only 30% people have responded to our survey. So if we have sent survey to about 900 plus people, about 350 people have responded for that survey. Rest others have not bothered also. So it actually make us ask a question that the person who is actually in charge, or who's put in charge of promoting innovation and entrepreneurship within the institution, that person himself is not interested in ensuring the success of that institute. This is not a very heartening picture. Are we the people who are going to kill good ideas? Are the people who are going to ensure that new policy frameworks don't get implemented? We need to work together, because if we work together, then only the tectonic shift which we are talking about will happen. Otherwise, we will be just looking at some incremental changes and always blaming the policymakers that they are not in sync with the reality on ground. If you look at the second pie chart, constitution of committee. So out of these 85% people who have done, they have gone ahead, about 70, 71%, 72% have gone ahead and constituted the committees. But the brainstorming sessions are not done yet. So I will request you all to now go ahead with elaborate brainstorming sessions, because once you will start doing these brainstorming sessions, it is certainly, as I said earlier, it is certainly will help us in policy, but it will also help you personally, because students, faculty within your institute will start recognizing you as a person of change. So try to do brainstorming sessions as much as possible. And if you see, hardly anyone has done any brainstorming sessions. Pooja, we have to really look into this data of second meeting and first meeting. Okay? Second, I think it has got flipped. One meeting has been done by 54%, and second meeting has been done by 76, only 23%. So just look at that data. Okay? And we had requested you also, as I said before, to further improvise on your documents, to study policy documents of other international, national HEIs, especially international, because national we have studied also some international agencies, but we might have missed on something. So we want you to also do that. Next slide, please. So I have already covered many of these aspects, the why HEI should adopt and where to start adoption. Pooja and Mohit will take you step by step on how we can go about it. Then I will again jump into the last parameter to discuss the last parameter, that is KPIs, key performance indicators, on how we should set up systems to measure the outcome of this entire implementation strategy. Okay, so Pooja, over to you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir, for this enlightening direction and guidance for the nominated faculty and the HEIs. And I believe that your directions will definitely help the HEIs in moving forward in the direction. You have clearly explained the expectations that we, as from Innovation Cell, has for this nominated faculty. And as you clearly explained, that outcomes are very important, and it should be a multi-pronged approach. Though Innovation Cell has created this policy, and it is basically a guideline document, but feedback and suggestions are always welcome from these HEIs, and these feedbacks will help us in creating a new version, or maybe adding some more components in the next version of the policy. Thank you very much, sir, for addressing the faculty. Now, moving on to the next part, I would discuss about what are the methods for innovation and startup policy implementations. So first and foremost is the strategic measures which the university and the institutes have to take at their institutional level. So when we talk about strategic measures, it is very clear that university and institute has to create a strategic document which defines the goals and its importance, the mission and the vision statements from the institute. So if any academic is interested in implementation of a policy, it must have a document ready which can be referred by the faculty, and nominated faculty can play an important role. They should discuss with the head of the institute or any competent authorities at the institute, and work out a strategic document where what steps and actions the institute needs to take for implementation of the policy, either in its current form, like we have given in NISP, or if the institute wants to create a new policy for itself, that also must be a part of the strategy that institute has to adopt. Strategy should clearly mention about the importance of the policy for the students and faculty, and how that strategy, how the policy is going to help the institute in fostering the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem in their campus. Now, what's important is the current status. So there may be many institutes which might be having their own policy already in place. Some institute might be having well-established pre-incubation and incubation infrastructure at the institute, while there are most of the institutes are not having any pre-incubation or incubation infrastructure. So based on the current status of the this kind of infrastructure, or this kind of ecosystem already available in the campus, strategic document needs to be devised. And so I would request every faculty and all the institutions to first work on the ground level status. So what is the current status? And based on the current status, they can work out the strategy of the institution policy for startup and innovation. So first one, as I already mentioned, is the formulation of policy, which may be in spirit of NISP, and then institute has to work out the entrepreneurial and financial strategy for promoting innovation. Then not only the institute has to work for the ecosystem development within its campus, but what's important is how they can help in developing a local ecosystem which can benefit the institute for promoting its ecosystem. For example, the local industry, the the corporates which are present near the institution, how the institute can collaborate with these corporates, how the institution can approach these companies for either for like knowledge exchange or for partnership, and for incubation of the ideas from the students. Another important aspect is the international partnership, which can be done through either exchange programs, which can be in terms of research, which can be in terms of like incubation of the technology. So these are all the aspects which the institute should focus on. Now, in the earlier sessions, QA session that we conducted after the first training session, we received queries from the faculty that their institute, some of the institute are not having any pre-incubation or incubation facility. So their question was that whether they should work on creating an incubation setup, or whether they should go ahead with only the pre-incubation facility. So the answer to this question is that not all the institutions can have incubation facilities. So first step should be the setting up the pre-incubation facility in the institute, and then after 2-3 years of experience, then the institute can think about like setting up an incubation facility, and meanwhile they can approach other institutions which are present in their vicinity or which are present in their state to access the incubation facilities for their students or faculty. So why it is important to have a pre-incubation facility? Suppose if your student and faculty is having any idea or technology which is having significant potential for being incorporated into an independent startup venture. So no institute would like to invest their money into an idea which has not been explored well. So that's where the role of pre-incubation facility comes. You want to reduce the uncertainties, you want to reduce the risk associated with the technology, and it is it's very, very important to understand that not every institute needs similar kind of incubation facility. And not every state district would need a similar kind of incubation facility, and even the requirement of the students and faculty are also different in terms of the what kind of incubation. That depends on the area that they are working on, the sector, the kind of technology that they are working on. So based on that, incubation facility requirements will also be different. So the institute has to first identify, work out a strategy, work out a policy for the kind of incubation facility it needs. Then business plan is also very, very important for setting up any incubation facility, because you want to sustain that incubation center in long run. So pre-incubation facility can help in helping facilitating more proof of concept studies for technology de-risking. Market research is a very important factor, because right from the idea stage till the startup stage, each and every member of the team should be aware about the market research. They should be able to identify who are the probable customer for their technology, who are the consumer for their technology, what is the price point, what is the problem that they really want to address. Because it is happening in our academic institutions and research institutions that we pick up a problem for our research, and then we are giving so much time, energy, and money in finding out a solution for a problem which doesn't really exist in the system, or in our, maybe in the campus, or even at the system. That problem is not existing really, and sometimes the problem exists, but the people do not want an answer for that problem. So market size is very, very important when we talk about creating startups. When we talk about creating ventures, money is a very important factor, and if there is no demand in the market, then there is no point working on the technology. So market size is very, very important. Segmentation of the targeting, positioning is very, very important. And the pre-incubation facility can play a very important role to help these student and faculty and also the staff to understand how to estimate the market size. So such kind of support is very much required by the pre-incubation facility. Then if it is a sole technology component, then it is fine. But sometimes the technology that a student is working on is a part of a whole system. So to bring in one or more technology provider partner, you need a incubation facility. And company also needs incubation before being investment ready. Now, what kind of support these pre-incubation and incubation facility provide? As I already mentioned, mentorship support is provided by these units. Then units can also help in assisting in market research and business planning, support in securing intellectual property rights, access to the research facilities and the resources available with the unit. And also these facilities should provide guidance for raising grant, funding, legal support, and administrative support. So there is one of the major difference between pre-incubation, incubation, and acceleration is the time duration. So generally 3 to 6 months are what is required for pre-incubation of any technology or innovation. From incubative point of view, I have already explained like what is a requirement. But from an institutional point of view, pre-incubation facilities are very, very important to ensure that you get good quality of teams, because nobody want to take a team which is not good, or nobody want to take technology or innovation which is not good and feed it into their incubation system, because incubation requires much more money inputs, much more time inputs. And to create a right kind of ecosystem also, these pre-incubation units are essential. While in incubation system, which generally lasts for 3 to 5 years based on the kind of sector that technology belongs to. For example, in life sciences and pharmaceutical sector, incubation takes a longer time, while in the technology sector or maybe in some software or apps, it may take a little less time for incubation. And also, it's also important to reduce the failure chances of early stage startups and to provide resources for financial and economic viability. And if right now, many of the institute might not be having any pre-incubation or incubation structure, so they can always reach out to the nearest facility, to the nearest institution. They can have some MOUs, they can sign some MOUs with these institutions so that their student and faculty can have access to these incubation units. And so we should, they should setting up a pre-incubation unit first and then asking their students to start working in this direction. They should approach the nearby institution and have some agreements with these facilities to get access for their students and faculty. Now, as I have already explained, for pre-incubation and incubation stage services, the support required by the facilities will be different. While in pre-incubation, it is mostly focused on training, orientation, innovation assessment, creating a business plan. While in the incubation stage, it is basically, in early stage, it is basically the fundraising, mentoring, networking, and how to transfer the technology. And also, if any startup want to expand, then exit strategy will also be a part of incubation. Now, coming to the financial strategy and resource mobilization, which is very, very important, and many faculty are asking this question: how to mobilize the resources, where to get the funds from. So first and very important source is the institute itself. Institute has to allocate certain budget for these activities, either for innovation related activities or for conducting trainings, workshops, or for setting up the pre-incubation facilities. So institute has to create a budget from its own resources. And then comes the government organization. There are so many government organizations which are helping the higher education institutions in setting up their either the incubation unit or in conducting different programs, training programs, mentorship programs. So these organizations can always be approached anytime. But the limitation with the government organization is that government funding is very, very limited. So you cannot rely on the government funding for a long time. So if you want to make the system sustain, then you should have a alternate financial resources from where you can get funds, and you can use those funds for all these activities or for setting up these facilities in your institute. That's why the strategic document is very, very essential, which clearly defines what are the financial strategy institute is willing to adopt based on what it is already having and what more it wants to do. Another resource can be through the CSR. Through the corporate institute can generate fund via the CSR for supporting technology incubators. Then alumni network is very, very important. Many of the big institutions like IITs, they are able to generate crores of funds because of their strong alumni network. So if any of your institute, any of the faculty is their institute is not having an alumni network, then this is the first and foremost thing that they have to do. They have to create a network, because some of these alumni maybe some entrepreneurs. Some of the alumni may already be a part of big organization, which may be at the national level or the international level. So these alumni can help you a lot, either in generating funds, in creating networks, in creating international partnerships, and also through sponsorship and donations. These alumni can help you in getting funds and help you in resource mobilization. International partnership, I have already mentioned that, through exchange programs, through internships. These are some of the financial strategy that institute can think about. These are some of the examples. Institute are open for exploring new ways for these for resource mobilization. And because all the faculties are listening to this session, so I would request all the nominated faculty to first have an idea, to discuss with your institution head and have an idea what kind of an ecosystem is already there. Because many of the faculty, most of the faculty I know are very senior faculty, and they would be having the idea. But in some of the institutions cases, the faculty are not very senior, so they might themselves not be having any idea, or maybe not maybe having partial idea about what kind of ecosystem is already available. And based on that, they can create the financial strategy, and they can work out how to mobilize resources for innovation and entrepreneurship related activities. Now, these are some of the examples, like under Atal Innovation Mission, several they give funding for setting up the Atal Incubation Centers, and they have some requirements in terms of space and lease period of 15 years for academic and R&D institutions, and a very good grant in aid is available under these schemes. So more details can be checked on the link given on the slide. And then similarly, DST is having Nidhi scheme under which TBIs can be set up by the institutes, and they have certain requirements from the institute who want to set up the TBI in their institute. But I would again like to mention that not every institute has to create or set up an incubator in their institute. So right now, pre-incubation should be the focus if they are not having any facility, and then slowly they can go to the incubation unit setup. Now, selection of business idea is very, very important, and this must be a part of the policy for the pre-incubation of the incubation unit. Before selecting any business idea from student or faculty, they should ensure that there is considerable commercial potential. There is commitment from the team to create a new startup venture. They should also ensure that intellectual property has already been filed, at least provisional patent application has already been filed. And then they should ensure that the energy, the time, the money they are investing in that technology is not going to waste. And for that, they have to ensure that team leader is really willing to take a responsibility to lead the project once the pre-incubation or incubation phase is over. So now from here onwards, I would request Dr. Mohit Gambhir, who is Innovation Director, Innovation Cell, to address the. Thank you very much. Thank you very much all.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kunj. Yeah. Thank you so much, Pooja, and thank you so much, Dr. Abhay Jere, for taking up the morning and introduction session. It was really enlightening the way things has been told since, and the way Deepan initiated in the first session. A lot of action has already been taken up. But as Abhay pointed out, a lot of things which still majority of we people, rather as in I'm talking about faculty members, are missing, has to be taken up in the right spirit, in the right manner. See, as in all of you are our peers, and I would like to say here, this is a nation building exercise we have to do together. Majority of the things, until and unless you own them, you become self-responsive, it will not move out. So the task that was assigned to you earlier, you need to deep dive into it and then carry forward. And taking that clue forward, which Pooja identified, like what is pre-incubation, what is incubation, and how it has to be implemented, what can be different adaptation models, which has already been laid by different government departments. How to create the culture as well in your institution. How a student who is at a very nascent stage comes to an institution and learn about entrepreneurship. This is something which we all have to introspect as well. Creating a facility is one thing, providing an environment and awareness and a culture is a different tangent aspect altogether. And it is very, very much evident we might build high-rise buildings, we might have a top-notch campus, but the culture, if it is not developed, things will not thrive at all. The student who is there, for you as a guiding person, the faculty members, our brand ambassadors who are there, the NISP resource persons, you have to inculcate the culture of entrepreneurship, the thought process, the seeds in those individuals. It is all about how you are going to shape that particular pot, and ultimately they're going to move out with those things. So as being said, the awareness campaigns, what, how, if. So it is like W4C and H, which you all guys are aware of, the initial policy meta, which is being created. A creative quotient is must to be developed. Not only among students as well, even the faculty members, the peers who are there, your colleagues who actually are capable of doing many things, but may be hesitant because they are not aware of in which particular direction to start and what to do. Our IICs are existing in lot many institutions. So as Pooja also pointed out, if you don't have a particular facility in your institution, if you don't know what to do, there is always a near institution or next institution which you can take the guidance from. And those institutions, I'm sure the ecosystem we are creating would be more than willing to handhold to create that kind of environment. Now, providing pathways for entrepreneurs, there are a lot of activities as you can do, and I'm sure many of you are already doing the very well laid plan of IICs, which calendar plan, which is going through the activities which are being done through. But on an institution level, I believe it should become a habit of few people, as in the awareness creation, the thought process, how to improvise, ideation process, how to ideate. See, it is again like we teach our child when they grow, like from their birth stage. And as Abhay pointed out, that you people are our umbilical cord, and I'm sure everybody of you are aware of what the purpose of umbilical cord. So that's the way. So it is attached to the mother. All the nutritions are being fed to the kid, and then when the kid is talented enough, or that person is talented enough, it becomes to grow more trees, plant more trees, and let them nurture and shed more fruits. So that's how this model has to move on. You have to, as I said, inculcate the creation thought of the process of ideation into them, how to ideate, how to move on. And once ideation has been done, implement a lot of other exercises like boot camps. And also there is, I could see a very, very, exemplified figure over there, which is illustrative, way too illustrative. It says a day in the life as an entrepreneur. So friends, as in being an entrepreneur myself at one point of stage in my life, I could very well tell you entrepreneurial journey is way too different altogether. It is not the rose bed which we feel like. It is something as an habit which we believe in, that we look on the successes, we look on the steps that what has been done together. But you have to, I'm sure you must rather invite a lot of alumni you must be having, your alma maters, the students who are there, who are doing their startups, and if not, the companies, the industries who are in the vicinities. You need to call the experts, the founders from there, and need to share their experiences with your students. How, what is the life, what is the thought process, what is the charm of becoming an entrepreneur, and the outcome of their deeds, with the perseverance quotient that is necessary. See, as a student of 18, 17, 18, 19 years or 20 years, if you ask them to do something, it is just like their thought process, the concentration level, the focus points, they are way too deviating. We need to channelize their energies, channelize their energies in a manner that yes, some disruptive outcome must come, some disruption must happen, the way they are thinking, the way they are working in their day in, day out processes. So sharing experiences and learnings from the others who are doing something is always beneficial, and this should become a kind of if I must say, you remember when during school days there are kind of different clubs or houses, and we used to have the weekly activities, and in college when we moved up there, those clubs become into technical clubs, and as of today the IICs which has been created, it is one of the biggest boon, I believe. And in a similar manner, you guys have technical club, this club, that club, and a lot of cells in your institutions as well. So these kind of activities must become a kind of routine, that what is happening around. And also peer level discussions must be, it is a must kind of thing. If one student is facing something, one faculty is facing some problem, obviously I'm sure other can help them up, help them down there with a kind of solution which is available locally, instead of running around pillar to post. Pooja, next slide, please. And once these initiatives, once these kind of action, the steps you guys have taken at your institutions end, then the immediate next step in the ladder comes in, that yes, once an exposure is done, I would like to relate it to very similar thing, because since all of you are into academics, you are into colleges, majority of you are PhDs. So just take a clue. Doing a PhD, and once you are done with your PhD, it doesn't stop there. What you people, as in a natural sense, or all of us, what we do, we start, entering into a kind of taking more research students into our ambit. We try to create more scholars in a very similar manner. It has to happen here as well. Once you create an exposure, you have to become a catalyst of taking that entrepreneurial journey of not only your students, of yourself as well, and highlight it. Give a suitable exposure to that particular, those group of talented entrepreneurs. And mind it, my dear friends, it is not that we do not take a hard and step that everybody has to become an entrepreneur. Even if somebody is trying hard on that entrepreneurial journey, I'm sure the kind of people say that there are failures. It is very well, it has to be accepted. Yes, but that particular student, they become entrepreneurial at least. And when they will move to their, job or the other company's arena, they will be well equipped to understand that what are different processes, and can certainly become an entrepreneur over there. Now, many initiatives which has already which has initialized at our end, at the central end as well. like annual innovation contest, which our slide is highlighting. What we have done is just to showcase that what kind of an activity can be done, what kind of initiatives you guys have can start up at your end. So here what we did, and we are doing it continuously. Second edition is already just got over by the humongous response we have received. Now, but how it all started? See the kind of activity the students, what we made them do. They go to the local places, to the vicinity, or to the villages which many of institutions you guys might have adopted, understand the problems which are going around, and then create the kind of model that yes, this kind of solution will be much more feasible to them, create a POC of that solution, have a mela, have a fair in your institution of those solutions which you guys can showcase. But mind it, as an IP guy, I always tell, before showcasing anything to the public, you guys have to protect the IP, which has highlighted indispensably by my previous speakers, Dr. Abhay and Dr. Pooja Rawat as well, that IP is something without protecting which we cannot reach up to $5 trillion economy. If we are producing, we are inventing something, we have to protect it. And then another initiatives which we are moving on, like there are a lot of grand challenges which happens out there. We ourselves from MOE's innovation cell, we have Smart India hackathons. From there, we take a little step, and students they get the exposure of moving on to international programs like Singapore, India, and very soon to be coming up or launched in India, ASEAN, India, Portugal, and whatnot. So kind of exposures, these are there. Then a lot of private industries are coming up with their initiatives. I remember Texas Instruments, they do have something. KPMG, they do have something. Cisco, they have something. KPIT, they are running something. Then different departments of government like MIT, Minister of Agriculture, DRDO, whatnot. So there are a lot of opportunities available, but until and unless we create a kind of environment in our institutions, I believe the students, they don't get the ample opportunity to showcase their talent in these kind of exposure opportunities which they have, and they do get a lot of prize money as well, which help them fund their future projects. Even the mentors, they get a lot of opportunity to work around and learn from the young energy which students are carrying along with them. And also, you must have attended, many of you would have been part of our Innovation Ambassadors training program, and we have already trained more than or close to 4,000 of them, and creating before the lockdown happened, and during the lockdown, many more activities has been done in the light of creating Innovation Ambassador. So this is something like where we thought that who can be the torch bearer from central point and create an ecosystem which can ultimately become self-sustainable. Being torch bearer, they have to be the individual or the people, the team who is on the ground, what all activities they can carry. So we took the nominations, we actually invited participants and then trained them in different processes from these stalwart speakers across the country in pre-incubation, incubation phase, and what is entrepreneurship, what is design thinking, what is IPR, what is tech transfers, how to ideate, whatnot. So we have created a kind of ecosystem over there, and we are in a process of creating more innovation ambassadors down the line. We are also in the process of highlighting or finding out that who all students can also become our young agent of change, so that they can supplement and they can attach with these innovation ambassadors and then move on in creating a very robust ecosystem. Friends, all of you, I must tell, we need to understand this is the time, the best of best opportunities are available with us, and we have to create an ecosystem so that future be much better for all of us. Now, moving on further, as in the next we say that how to establish an implementation framework over here, that what all is required, what all has to be done so that our framework can become more robust. Now, for that, as in we make any building, any compound, anything, what we do nowadays, we make strong pillars and then start the foundation. as in I mean to say, and then start building it block by block and moving on. So if your foundation is strong, I'm sure you can build a multi-story building without even worrying about the earthquakes or any other calamities and that kind of scenario. And I'm sure all of you guys can relate what I'm talking about without naming a couple of things. Now, how to identify those pillars so that in your particular institution or university or the place it can be implemented. Startup policy, which we have already given to you, which we have provided to you, it already says, it lays down a lot of plan, it lays down a lot of guidance principles, which you guys have to look into, you guys have to explore, and then make your own policy framework, the best which suits, and also share your experiences down the line further. Awareness outreach, I have already talked about, the kind of incubation support, which Pooja also highlighted, you have to look up to. If you don't have, just look into the nearby institutions or the incubation centers which are there to provide you support. What all, you have funding supports, you have that angel funding, venture funding kind of. And meanwhile, you also need to explore that you need to even ease up your policy, institution policy for your students and to the management, I must say, for the faculty and staff members as well, as we have identified in our policy, giving them suitable breaks, allowing them to do some startups and giving them due credits. So this is all like what as at an institution level. So initial few pillars you can identify, you can create the building around that, motivation how. So the first point, as it says, that awareness and outreach. Again, I would like to highlight, initially we said entrepreneurial training, you need to awareness, you need to create around. A lot of boot camps can be taken up. So see, there are a lot of agencies, even I remember there are a lot of VC funds or PE funds, they come around, they are on the hunt of companies or the startups from these young minds, which can be tapped early, which can be provided with seed money and scaled up like exponentially and anything. So you can explore that, and they come around, they train the students in organizing different aspects of the entrepreneurial journey. And then also there are a lot of schemes from our end as well. Like we from MICA already did a lot of boot camps and trained people. We will keep on continuing doing that, providing you support. So that is a kind of ecosystem you guys have to look at your end as well. And we also highlighted the startup policy and implementation point. Friends, I believe there in the policy it has already written. Again, I would like to reiterate that a dedicated web portal presence on the institution or university's website. It is a must kind of activity which we have to be there, which has to be there. It is a must presence. So on your, like you have different cells in your institution, maybe you collate them, take them under the ambit of these all IACs. We have created a kind of umbrella, and then say what kind of innovation activities institution has, the facilities you people have. So there is a dedicated place, maybe a subdomain. If any person or like me comes down, I could very well easily locate. Now, what is the purpose of doing this? See, in today's scenario, it's not only about the theoretical education which you guys are doing. It's all about what innovation and add-on and entrepreneurial aspects you people are throwing out. And mark my words, my dear friends, moving down the line or in a couple of more years, you will see it's not only about the education quotient, it's all about the entrepreneurial spirits which are being created in the institutions, the revenue streams which are being generated. See, this thing is coming of late in India, but it is happening right now. Otherwise, if you look around the foreign universities or the Western universities, majority of them, they are self-sustainable. They have become like that. And how they have become like that? Only because of the kind of innovations, the inventions, or the IP they have created. They have licenses to industry. So we are trying to put up a foundation stone over here that in a couple of years, at least we should reach to a level that our academic institutions should become a strong pillar in overall our gamut, or can provide a future direction to our industry as well. So how it all started, like in industry, we are saying industry 4.0. And I still remember 25 years ago, it was generally termed as that we guys are service providing people. Then slowly it moved on. it said, yes, we are kind of a co-creator shoes we entered into. And friends, trust me, in today's scenario, I believe the world has started accepting all of us, or the industry from here, the research from here, as in a creator capacity. So we need to harness this. We need to exploit the kind of opportunity. And I believe the day is not far that where then industry and other people, they will again move back to the academia and ask for what next. So just like it happens in the West. And how it has to be done, until and unless we say the students who, there are path-breaking examples, we do have that lot of incubation centers, which really flipped around the whole academic ecosystem in a particular institution or university. There are a lot of examples in the country. I will not name them. But for the institutions who do not have right now, they should move into the direction. They should work into the direction. And as Dr. Pooja earlier mentioned, a lot of schemes are available, a lot of facilities from the government agencies are available. Even you can contact your alma mater as well for their support, for mentoring your students. The alumni, it is the best source of providing the first hand. As we say, to run any startup, we need seed money, which we, time and again, we take the example of. Alma mater is someone who will be, as in if I say to ask to me as well, I would be more than glad to serve my alma mater and provide what sort of help I can for my alma. In a very similar manner, I believe the institution, they should reach to all the alumni whatsoever, and the kind of support they can reap in from there. I believe this is a pretty much doable aspect. Then again comes up like PPP model, which we have highlighted. The local industries, they do have kind of CSR funds, which again was highlighted in our earlier slides. Create a kind of environment, create a kind of center of excellences based out of those industries, and train your students in what kind of the best aspects can be moved on, and best practices can be implemented in taking things further. And ultimately what should happen, it should be, or it must be the goal of each one of us, including the host, whoever the participant, you guys are listening. It is not about the funds we should eye for, that okay, one agency will come, they will fund. We have to have the objective of being self-sustainable. The kind of startups, the kind of facilities we are generating for our students, ultimately they should become the revenue generator. The kind of IP we are creating, it should generate revenues for us. It should be licensable technology. Just for the sake of it, sake of creating numbers, I believe it should not be our motive. Motive should be some productive outcome must be there, which many people are taking up. And then again, I could immediately read that somebody is saying that seed funding is a problem. And that's the reason I highlighted, contact your alumni, contact nearby banks. There are a lot of banks which are into it. I would again will not name. Specialized banking sector is there to provide these kind of funding. If your project has the potential, people come in. Again, I request the management, and in our policy, it is a provision that the fund allocation must be there to provide some basic aspect, basic seed money, even to mobilize few earlier things, and then it can be taken further. A lot of localities, people can come up, and I do believe, and we have not even answered, we can set up community helping hand together, which can actually provide some seed money to solve the problem which is actually local, and then can again reap in revenue from there. So these are kind of models which can be established to scale few things, or to generate seed support, to incubation support as well, and how we can certainly scale up, we can certainly move on. And further up, as we said, policy matters. In our NISP, we also highlighted that the institution, or this institution, the management, what all has to be done, appropriate things or steps must be taken up so that an environment, a positive environment, is created overall. So it is a vis-a-vis. Friends, it's a very, very thin sword. Students or the faculty members, it would be my appeal, do not take right of it. To management, it would be an appeal to create a right set of environment so that faculty members, even staff, the students, they are motivated, they are encouraged to take steps moving forward. Even according to this NISP, which we have highlighted, that a faculty member, they can come up, they have to have their DIN number, they can take the break for doing their own startups or taking the mentorship support. And even in the ambit of their current load, meeting all the academic responsibilities, if they are able to meet up the demand, they should be encouraged to take it up. There are a lot of, I must use the innovation warriors are there who are ready to take up the challenges. And we must provide a kind of environment and the support following the guidelines which has been laid in our policy so that things can be taken up further. And I would like to stop here and once again would like to invite Dr. Abhay Jere so that he can provide you the insight about how to measure what has to be done and insight about all key KPIs. Over to you, Dr. Abhay.
Thank you, Mohit. Thank you, Pooja. You people have done excellent job. And I really hope that large number of people have would have certainly benefited with what you have said. So good. So next, move forward towards the last section of this presentation before we actually get into question and answers and actionables for the faculty or the coordinators which we have. So as I was saying earlier, and as Mohit was also saying earlier, that when we are looking at any initiative, we are looking at outcome and not just output. And we will request you all to also have your mindset trained accordingly, that we have to really look at the impact which we have created and not just whether we have created the processes in place. Okay, so when we are looking at all this innovation ecosystem, for us, as I said, you are our ambassadors and you will help create 6 kind of parameters within your institutes, or you will help evaluate your performance or the performance of your institute on 6 different parameters. One is the impact of awareness. I will get into it very elaborately. Second, participation and representation of students and faculty in various events which are related to innovation. Third, impact of second, impact of financial strategy. Pooja, next slide. I will deal upon all these factors very elaborately. Then impact of incubation support, then impact of IP and fronts on courses, and impact on incubation support. Okay, so these are the 6 parameters. But if you really look at these 6 parameters, we can divide these 6 parameters into 3 broad categories. One is input, what input you are doing. Second, processes, what processes you have established. And third, that is outcome. And when you are talking about your KPIs, here we need to ensure that you create a system. It can be a digital platform, it can be a mechanism which you can set up where you measure inputs, you measure processes, and you measure outputs or outcomes. When we are talking about input, what input we will talk about is annual budget. How much money you have spent on creating on your innovation related initiatives, for supporting startups, for supporting incubation center. Okay, so this talks about input. So what input you are doing? Example, how many events you have organized to spread the innovation policy as well as the culture of innovation. Okay, this is very, very important. Second, processes. When we are talking about the processes, when we are talking about is about the facilities which you are setting up. As Pooja talked about, pre-incubation facility, incubation facility, some advanced centers, you know. So these kind of some research centers, you may already have some of them, but how you are now utilizing this existing infrastructure to support innovation and entrepreneurship. So this is the second aspect of it when it comes to your processes. Then because of this, what kind of IPs are getting filed or getting granted? Because at the end of the day, when we are looking at outcome, what we will look at outcome, the inputs and processes should be good enough so that your outcome is robust. So how many IPRs you have filed? So now, before NISP, what was the status? After you implemented NISP, what is the status? Before NISP, how many number of startups were there? After NISP, how many number of startups are there? Then, as I said, whether there is an increase because of this culture which we are creating, maybe this year, maybe next year, in actual innovation, actual patent filing, and whether we have set up the systems to monetize some of these patents, because patent filing or getting it granted is one aspect of it, but monetization of patent is an altogether different aspect. And whether we have set up those processes within our institutes by getting in right kind of clauses within our NISPs or within your own innovation policies, so that the commercialization is much easy. We always talk about ease of doing business, but whether there is ease of doing business with universities, whether there is red tape when we are collaborating with institutes, when we are sharing patents with institutes, when we are sharing intellectual property with the industry. So we also need to look at that red tapeism. And this policy should be an enabling framework to reduce that red tapeism. Because when you will start working on all these aspects, you will ensure that the things are moving very smoothly for innovators, for entrepreneurs to come up with an idea, to work on an idea, to create a prototype, then build on that prototype further, maybe TRL 3, 4 level, 5 level, 6 level, move towards incubation, talk to right kind of industry, either do their own startups or get into technology transfers and get revenue through royalty to the university or to the incubator which you have created in your campuses. So these KPIs, key performance indicators, are going to be really very relevant for you, because you are not just getting one small policy, you are actually creating an enabling framework. And when you are creating an enabling framework, you always need to continuously ask whether I have made life of my innovators, of my entrepreneurs easy as compared to before. Otherwise, there's no point in doing all this. And the ease of life or ease of doing business when we are talking about is through what? Through very clear-cut guidelines, through very clear-cut strategies with no ambiguity. So that when I am going on that path or when I'm pursuing that path, I know these are the 10 steps which I need to follow. And if I follow them correctly, I will be successful. So these are the very important aspects. Pooja, next slide. So for example, if we ask ourselves, how many faculties in our institutes are on board of startups? Do we have that number? Do we know what they do? If they're on board of startups, what is their DIN number? Because as I said, if we want to ensure that faculty also emerges as an entrepreneur, then we need to ensure that those guidelines are there and we track those guidelines and we track that development. So you need to create that system, create that enabling framework, create that platform. Then, if you are incubating a startup, whether they know how to register a startup, who can help them doing that? Whether you have a small committee, who will help us do that? If yes, there is a small committee or a small office who can help us do that, then whether those names are there, whether those aspects are mentioned in your policy, all these things are very, very critical. And these documents should certainly talk about them. Then, what is going to be the exit strategy? As Pooja was talking about, as Mohit was talking about. For us, we are saying any entrepreneur or any startup which has turnover of about 50 lakhs and or has 10 employees, we are going to call it as a successful startup. Are you going to go with the same definition? If yes, why? If you are going to alter that definition within your policy framework, what is the new definition? What is the logic behind that new definition? So all these things are going to be very, very critical when you are going to go for KPIs. And when you will have all this data regarding outcome, you will be automatically ready for the ARIA ranking framework, which second edition for which we announced, I don't know how many of you are aware, but Honorable Vice President of India 2 days back announced ARIA ranking for 2020. So ARIA ranking framework, ARIA is Atal ranking of institutions on innovation achievements. So it's a ranking framework which ranks all major institutes in India, or it plans to rank all major institutes in India on their innovation achievements. And within this ARIA framework also, we look at input, processes, and output. And your NISP or your innovation policy needs to be in sync with these 3 blocks so that you can really create the impact which you are trying to create here. And while you are doing that, you will also have data on various important parameters or indicators which are required for ARIA ranking, and you will become more ready for ARIA ranking, so that once you participate in ARIA ranking, we will able to tell the world that this institute is ready. They have all the right framework and policies in place to promote innovation, to promote entrepreneurship within their organization. So this is where I would like to stop, and I can take questions if required. So these are the 7 parameters within, so these are the subsequent parameters. And if you go to ARIA website, you will actually see the list of all the parameters which are there. So as Pooja was saying, the last slide will be of what you really need to achieve. Right, Pooja?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So some of the action items before the next
Action
session.
items of NISP. So you want to list them or you want to talk about them? I can go ahead. So it's very, very simple.
Please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
Please, it's very, very simple. First, you all must be certainly having your website, college website, institute website. You create a subdomain within that website to track your innovation related activities. Okay, create a subdomain so that students are aware of the policy document, or who are the people involved, what are the facilities which are there, what are the activities which you are planning related to innovation on the web page. So that subdomain or that page should be your gateway to the entire innovation ecosystem within your organization. For example, if you have 3D printer, then let's talk the picture of that 3D printer, who is the person point of contact if you want to use the 3D printer, if you have to book a 3D printer, where I can book it, how I can book it, who can approve it. If you have multiple, then whether I can pick and choose some of the facilities. If I have to file a patent, where should I go? Who is the person in charge? If I have to get support for business model, where should I go? If I want to have support for pre-incubation, where should I go? If I want to have support for funding related aspects, whom should I contact? If I want to have actually file an IPR, okay, claims, prior art search, how should I go about it? So you need to create a system. You need to create that platform which can answer all these questions. And from back end, you should also able to track some of these aspects. So people can actually go ahead and enter their data. That data about what kind of innovation they are doing, what is the status of that innovation in terms of TRL levels, whether it's 0, it's 1, it's 2, it's 4, it's 5. If it is good, maybe 4, 5 and above, it can go directly into our AICTE portal. If it is less than that, we are actually creating another mechanism within AICTE also, so that we can also track some of the projects which are moving forward. So you need to create this tracking mechanism within your institution, so that once the student comes up with an idea, you actually handhold him till he graduates as startup. And at each point, and at each juncture, or at each intervention, your policy needs to act as an enabling framework so that his journey is smooth as possible. Because as Mohit was saying rightly, that entrepreneurial journey is not a very, very smooth process. It's one of the most difficult tasks. Selling something to someone is extremely challenging task. So we want our youngsters, we want our faculty to focus on that difficult aspect and not get bogged down by the bureaucracy or by systems within our own institutes. So with this, I will stop here because I am sure that you have understood the essence of what we are trying to do and will work with us in close coordination to ensure that this ecosystem gets created within your organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Pooja, you want to take questions?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much, sir, for explaining about the indicators which these institutions can use, and the faculty can even include those indicators in their strategic document for the policy implementation. And I hope that faculty will start working on these indicators as well, along with the other activities that they have to plan under the implementation program. So since we have very limited, only two questions. First question is from Dr. Apurva Giri. I would request to ask the question, Dr. Apurva Giri.
Apurva, go ahead.
Okay, it's not a engineering college. Are you getting, sir?
Yes, we are getting.
This is a general college, and I am teaching food processing and nutrition. So,
Very good.
In this kind of college, how I can start like the pre-incubation? If you suggest some preliminary idea, so that I can proceed from that. Okay, sir.
Very good. Very good question, Apurva. So if you are in your general college, okay, you certainly will be having your own labs.
Yes.
Right? You have your own labs. Huh? So the question you really need to ask, so once someone has an idea, so you need to sit down and elaborately list down what kind of facilities you will require to convert that idea into a proof of concept. Okay. So first thing is having an idea. Second is converting that idea into a proof of concept, right? So once you know that this is my idea, this is my proof of concept where I have to go, you will always get into some of the aspects which you can certainly do in your labs.
Okay, sir.
Okay, if it is related to food process, for example, you are creating you are coming up with an essay to measure salmonella, for example. I'm just a low cost 30-second essay to detect presence of salmonella in food. Okay. So now for that, what all things you will require? Whether you are going to it's going to be a 96 well plate essay, or you are going to do an artificial strip based essay, just dip stick on something of that sort. What kind of essay? Like, we have pregnancy dipstick. So if you say I have a salmonella detection dipstick where I just dip it into a system and I can detect a salmonella, I don't know whether it can be done. It could be done. Now you really need to ask is what are the facilities you will require to do it. Okay. Then some of the things you will certainly have, because you will require right kind of enzymes. Right? Okay. So because it is going to be a biosensor based. So now whether you can do that fermentation. So if you have a small fermenter, you can certainly go ahead and do that. right? But then if you say, now basic strip design I can do, but I need to create a cassette for that strip. Huh? I don't have a 3D printer. You can always go out and get a 3D printer. You can collaborate with an engineering institute. And that's where Pooja was trying to say that you don't have to do everything by yourself. You have to go and collaborate. It's okay to collaborate because currently what is happening, some institutes have huge infrastructure, which is getting completely underutilized. Some institutes simply don't have an infrastructure. So if you can have a collaboration, a formal collaboration, then you can actually go ahead and use and utilize those facilities by paying some small amount. Okay, everything you don't need to do in-house. That's what we are trying to say here. What you really need to do in-house is creating the right kind of culture and mindset that my institute is there to help me in every possible way if I have a great idea. Apurva, you're getting what I'm trying to say here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Huh?
Thank you for your.
So don't worry whether you have, don't get bogged down by what you don't have. If you have a great idea, you will figure out the way to actually convert that idea into a concrete venture. And as Pooja and Mohit were rightly saying that, if you don't have incubator, it's fine. Don't worry. Go and join some incubator in your vicinity. Because many times, these incubators are empty. So, the infrastructure is there. I will tell you, there are about 450, 500 incubators in this country. And we can very, very safely say that about 70% of the incubators are 50% to 70% empty. It means they are getting underutilized. And we are going to give you marks even if you collaborate with the other incubators. When it comes to ARIA ranking or something, there is a section within ARIA ranking where if you have collaborations, we are fine with that. Okay?
Sir. Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes.
Are you getting, sir? Sir, can I get that incubation list so that we can find out the nearby institute? What are the facilities that we can find out? See, is there any way to get the list which are the incubation in our nearby institute? Can I get that?
We are also in process of combining right now this list. We will come back to you in that. Okay?
Sir.
Currently, it's not ready-made with us. And Pooja is actually working on putting all DSTs, Atal Incubator, MESC Incubator, some of the private incubators. We will take some time, but we will come back to you on that.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Apurva, for your question, and thank you, sir, for answering. Since we have very limited time, we will take only one more question from Mr. Krovi Rajashekar. And I would like to mention that after this training session, we are going to conduct regional QA sessions where we will be able to take detailed questions from all the faculty. So Krovi Rajashekar, sir, ask your question, please.
Thank you. This is Dr. Crow Rashid.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Abhay. You have given a wonderful thoughts on that. I am especially eagerly waiting for the key performance indicators, and you are absolutely mapped to the ARIA ranking data. That's what we have. I think at the same time, we need to have a separate subset of inputs from this. NAC and the NISP is also sometimes they need the data to be presented for the purpose of startup ecosystem with the institutes. I think this entire ARIA data is useful.
Good.
And second question is
what is the question in the,
we are already having
it's more of a comment.
Yeah. I think that question I have initially thought of asking, but you have clarified that question in your speech.
Okay.
The main question is, do you suggest that institutes to register a separate entity at this stage? We have already a separate SPV with us.
Yes. Yes. The thing is that the reason why we recommend registration of a separate entity like Section 8 company or society is because institutes as per current Indian norms or as per current Indian laws, are not authorized to hold equity into any of the startups. Okay, so if you want to hold equity into any of the startups, then you really need to have a Section 8 company or a society. An institute holds that equity through that Section 8 company. Okay, so for that you really need to register. But as I said, every institute need not do it. They can always go ahead and collaborate with the incubators in their vicinity.
Yes. This is one of the questions we frequently, the other institutes ask our incubation center that suggests to have a separate entity.
The reason is you cannot. So, for example, a university cannot hold an equity into a startup. It's as simple as that.
Yes,
but if you are supporting a startup, then eventually, if you want to have a royalty coming out, a revenue coming from that startup, okay, then you need to have an equity.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So you cannot, or you can just do the transfer of patents and then ask for a royalty, and that can be also done. But if you want to, for example, IIT Delhi wants to have equity in many of its firms which they are incubating.
Yes, sir.
Because it could be eventually a big revenue generation for them.
Yes.
If one of the companies end up turning unicorns, $1 billion company, and if they have 5%, 10% equity in that, then their valuation goes up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you for answering this question, sir. I can see many more raised hands icons on my screen from Mr. Pratha Sarkar, Dr. Vishnu Vardhan, Varala Aswini, Dr. TVSMR. So I am very sorry we won't be able to take more questions, but we will certainly take your questions in the question and answer sessions. You can also write to us at aict-india.org if you have any questions which have remained unanswered and which you want if there is any query also you can share, or any feedback also you can share with us. With this, before ending the session, I would like to thank the resource persons for today's session. I would like to thank Dr. Abhay Jere, the Chief Innovation Officer, for answering the questions from the faculty and very well explaining the indicators which these institutes can use, and also providing guidance and suggestions to these institutes for how they can move forward for NISP policy implementation. And your feedback and suggestions, as sir has already said, are very, very important for us to move forward to modify the policy and bring out next version of the policy. I would also like to thank Dr. Mohit Gambhir, Innovation Director, for throwing light on how the institute can create pathways for entrepreneurs and what are the different schemes available from the government and the non-government organization where institutes can definitely go. And summing up, I would say that these schemes are available, support system is available, programs are available. What these faculty have to do, what these institutes have to do, is just look outside, search for these schemes, search for these programs which are available in your vicinity, and also work on identifying the local problems which are a part of which are there in the regional system, so that institute and the regional ecosystem as a whole can develop together. And I hope that through these efforts from the institute, through a collaboration between institute and the center, we will be able to create an innovation and entrepreneurship culture within the campus and in the education system of the country. I again thank you, I also thank all the faculty who have joined here in this session, and also who are watching this session online through our YouTube channel. I would like to know that there are many sessions, training sessions available online on our YouTube channel. You can definitely visit and get benefit from these sessions available online. Thank you very much, all the faculty, and once again, thank you, Abhay Jere sir, and for enlightening the faculty and the institute on different aspects of the policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mohit. Thank you, Pooja. Both of you have done a fantastic job, and thanks to all the faculties for joining.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.